Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation F VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be featuring a really wild team that has a ton of surprises up its sleeve. The team looks fairly standard if you just look at the Pokemon. It's a rain team with Pokemon like Pelipper, Urshifu, Gholdengo, as well as Flutter main, but there are a lot of crazy tricks. For example, you have Min Speed Urshifu with a Power Anklet to sweep under Trick Room. In order to set up Trick Room, you've got Farigiraf as well as a max HP, max special defense Maranga Berry Flutter main with Trick Room. You've also got things like Choice Specs Pelipper, Life Orb Min Speed Gholdengo, and Choice Band Regieleki. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. Really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get started. Breaking things down, as always, rental, pace, and team creator are linked down in the description below. And question of the day, I want to know what your favorite best of one surprises are down in the comment section below. This team was built by Nash VGC, who got the idea from a Japanese player, and I've linked both of them down in the description below. And it was built for the Global Challenge 1, which is one of the online best of one closed team sheet Wi-Fi tournaments that give out points towards the World Championships. Now, having surprises in closed team sheet best of one is huge. It can really give you a major advantage, and even a single surprise can catch your opponents off guard and often win you games. This team has a surprise, it feels like, on everything. So we first of all have to start off by talking about this Urshifu. Urshifu, normally a Pokemon that is fairly invested in speed. This is the complete opposite. You're actually min speed Brave Nature with the Power Anklet. Of course, with the Power Anklet, your speed is turned into half, and it's really nice because as a result, this Urshifu outspeeds so many things under Trick Room that no one would ever expect. For example, Min Speed Ursaluna is something that a lot of people have been using. Well, this Urshifu actually outspeeds that under Trick Room. You're able to really catch opposing teams off guard. And when you look at this team in Team Preview, you would expect Urshifu to often be Mystic Water or even Choice Scarf, for example, right? So a lot of times people will actually set up Trick Room to try to deal with Urshifu, but then this Urshifu just underspeeds them or outspeeds them under Trick Room and can just absolutely demolish teams. What's also really nice is because you don't have speed investment, you're allowed to invest a lot more in bulk. And so, yeah, this Urshifu just can completely catch opposing teams off guard. You're still running a pretty standard moveset of Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and Detect, and of course, Water Terra to maximize your damage. Now, Pelipper is a pretty common partner for Urshifu, but this is also unlike most Pelippers that you've seen. When people use Pelipper, they normally like to use Focus Sash, for example, and they'll use Hurricane, Weather Ball, Protect, Tailwind, Wide Guard, for example. This set has Muddy Water with Choice Specs and Grass Terra, and of course you're also min speed here. So it actually becomes a really effective sweeper under Trick Room, especially because you have things like Helping Hand support from Farigiraf. In addition, with Choice Specs, you're able to just get one-hit knockouts onto things that normally don't expect to get one-hit KO'd by Pelipper. A super effective Choice Specs Hurricane is just absolutely ridiculous, especially into all of those grass types that exist in the format. Wide Guard might seem a little bit weird on a set that has Choice Specs, but it's a move that can just single-handedly win you games sometimes when your opponents commit to locking into spread moves. Especially if they're stuck with a Pokemon with a spread move in the end game, like Choice Specs Flutter main, for example. Of course, Pelipper also synergizes really nicely on this team because you increase the damage output of Urshifu's water type attacks, and you reduce the damage of fire type attacks, which is really valuable for Gholdengo. Now, like I said, this is a Trick Room team, so you need Pokemon that can actually set up Trick Room. Farigiraf exists on this team. This is probably the most standard Pokemon on this team, just in terms of moveset. Your Fairy Terra with Citrus Berry and a ton of bulk here, as you can see, max defense, and the idea is that this is just really valuable into all of those physical attackers that are out there. And with Citrus Berry, it's really hard to deny Trick Room. Armortail, of course, continues to be one of the best abilities in the game, and you've got a fairly standard set of Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Helping Hand, and Trick Room. The main thing to notice, this is not the Throat Spray Hyper Voice set that's been really popular recently, but the bulk is just so important in trying to get up Trick Room. Most of the times with this team, I'd say if Trick Room does not get up, you're going to be in a really difficult spot. So that's why Farigiraf exists. You've also got this really bulky Flutter main that also has Trick Room. Now, this Flutter main is fascinating because it's actually max HP near max special defense. And the idea behind it is that it's absolutely incredible into so many of the special attackers that exist in the format. Normally, people expect to just be able to knock out Flutter main fairly easily, and even though it's got great base special defense, its HP is obviously fairly low, so people expect to still be able to knock it out relatively quickly with special attacks, are, for example, super effective. Well, with Maranga Berry and this amount of HP and special defense investment, even super effective special damage suddenly just becomes a lot weaker. And so the idea is that this Flutter main can just soak up a lot of hits. It creates these win conditions that normally don't exist. For example, imagine you're using Flutter main, you're going up against a Raging Bolt. Well, Raging Bolt just really struggles to do a lot of damage to Flutter main, especially after the Maranga Berry activates. The way this berry works, by the way, just because you probably haven't really gone up against it very much or used it in VGC this year, it's not a common item, is that when you're hit by a special attack, you immediately get a special defense boost, right? And so what ends up happening with Flutter Mane often is it eats up a special attack and then just becomes really difficult to knock out, especially against, of course, opposing special attackers. Be careful, though, because you don't really have that much physical investment, and so you're still really weak to physical attacks, right? Something like Choice Scarf Urshifu, Surging Strikes can still be a problem. To round things out, you've got Life Orb Golden Go. This is min speed as well, designed to sweep under Trick Room, of course. The main thing to note here is that you don't have Nasty Plot. You've got Thunderbolt instead, but Thunderbolt just gives you really good coverage, especially into, say, Water-type Pokemon, and it means that you don't always have to rely on Make It Rain and Shadow Ball. And the final Pokemon is this Choice Band Regieleki set. Choice Band Regieleki is fascinating, right? Like, one of the upsides of Regieleki is that it's just so fast, like, you don't even need to go max speed, for example, to outpace practically everything you're going to run into in the format, other than Choice Scarf Pokemon and Booster Energy Speed Pokemon. And the idea is that this Regieleki is actually fairly bulky, but of course you have a good amount of attack investment as well. And the reason why we're running physical Regieleki here is you're able to, for example, get a one-hit knockout onto Flutter Mane. You also have Choice Band Normal Terra Explosion, so one fun lead you can go with this team is Regieleki plus Flutter Mane, and just Normal Terra Explode. Flutter Mane sets up Trick Room, you bring out Urshifu, and then Urshifu just starts sweeping under Trick Room. One of the reasons why this Urshifu, by the way, is so cool is because normally the way people beat Trick Room is by stalling it out, right? So they'll go for multiple protects, but Urshifu with its ability on Unseen Fist can just attack through those protects. And so normally that's not too much of an issue because Urshifu is fairly fast, and so it's not like it'll just be able to knock you out before you move. But on this team, this Urshifu will outpace so many Pokemon, the majority of Pokemon that exist in the format when Trick Room is set up. And so you can't safely protect in front of it. It's able to just chain knockouts turn after turn, and it makes it really difficult to actually stall out the couple turns of Trick Room. But I was talking about Regieleki earlier, and you can use it to go for Explosion early on. You can also just like Volt Switch and immediately bring out one of your sweepers while Farigiraf or Flutter Mane set up Trick Room. So yeah. That's it for a quick breakdown. In terms of ways to play with the team, I think it's really important generally to get Trick Room up. So your best leads for that, and the most consistent leads I found, are Regieleki, Flutter Mane, Regieleki, Farigiraf, for example. You could bring Regieleki in the back because, but I think then it becomes really volatile, so be careful about that. I've also gone with leads like Urshifu plus Farigiraf, Urshifu plus Flutter Mane, where my opponents often get scared about fighting Urshifu and I just end up protecting and then setting up Trick Room. I think that's strong. Pelipper Urshifu is an effective lead where you can basically bait your opponent into thinking you're like fast Urshifu and Tailwind Focus Sash Pelipper, and then just deal massive amounts of damage and catch them off guard. Obviously be careful about that because if you're bringing Power Anklet Urshifu out immediately without a Trick Room setter, it's very likely this is just going to be slower than your opponent. But I've had games where this is a really effective lead just because I don't expect my opponent to, really kind of expect the items on these Pokemon. And one of the fun interactions here is, as a result, the Pelipper will actually move before Urshifu, and sometimes that can be valuable, right? Imagine you're going up against like an Ogerpon or an Amoonguss. It means that the Pelipper will be able to get that Hurricane off first before Urshifu moves, and then Urshifu will likely be able to, Pelipper will get a knockout if they don't Terra, for example, and then Urshifu will end up targeting afterwards. Whereas if you're standard Urshifu sled, that redirection move will just be able to waste Urshifu's turn more or less. And so I think that's one other fun combo. If you want to go with immediate damage, I mean, Golden Go is really effective, but you obviously have to be a little bit careful. I think a lot about this team is just trying to get Trick Room up, and most of the times you want to do that I would say in the first couple of turns, unless you're going up against an opposing team that has even slower Pokemon. But I think if you're not getting Trick Room up, it's going to be fairly difficult to win with this team in the majority of games that you play. So play with the mindset of, hey, I need to get Trick Room up. So in terms of weaknesses, the first thing that I want to call out is that the element of surprise is honestly so important for this team. So as it becomes more public and as more people play against it, it'll be likely that some of your opponents will know what the sets are, and that can just completely warp how they play, and that'll put you at a pretty big disadvantage. So if you're going up against people that have never seen this team before, you'll be at a major advantage. But if you're going up against someone that knows the sets, I think that can actually hurt you a lot. So you can say that for any team, but this team in particular has so many surprises and can win a game just off one turn off the element of surprise. And so when that surprise is ruined, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to just catch your opponents off guard. I've also specifically struggled against playing against our Chaladon, for example. It's a really bulky Pokemon where your best way of dealing with it is using like close combat, for example, but our Chaladon often has a good defensive Terra as well, and the rest of the team can't really do that much to it other than like Spec Shadow Ball from Golden Go, as well as Flutter Mane going for Moonblast or Shadow Ball. But I think our Chaladon, for example, into Flutter Mane, really powerful because it can just Heavy Slam. If you have Heavy Slam instead of Flash Cannon, for example, that's a big nightmare. So that's one thing to watch out for. Regieleki here is really strong, but with Choice Band, it can be exposed, right? So like Intimidate plus Fake Out's good into this. I think Pokemon that can survive a normal Terra Extreme or Explosion is also really strong, right? And so I've had games, for example, where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go for normal Terra Explosion, set up Trick Room and Flutter Mane, but then Aleki fails to get the knockout, and then whatever they have, that survives Explosion just knocks out Flutter Mane, and that can be really bad. So ways to just deny Trick Room or like getting knockouts onto the Trick Room users is really valuable, right? You don't have Fake Out support, you don't have redirection support, and so for example, if Frugraph is led, you can just easily double up into the slot. If Flutter Mane is led, you can take advantage of the fact that it actually doesn't really have very much offense, and if you know that it's slow, for example, you can utilize that to your advantage as well. So yeah, can't stress how important the element of surprise is for this team. I think because you also have Choice Specs Pelipper and Choice Specs Regieleki, your opponents can kind of take advantage of that. As if you lock into a bad move, then it puts you into a really difficult position. And if Trick Room is stalled out, and your opponent hasn't lost too many resources, that can be scary as well. So yeah, those are just a couple things I wanted to call out. All right, we've got an Ambipom here. I'm going to be honest, I didn't even realize that Pokemon was in this Pokedex. Otherwise, you've got a pretty standard core of Tornadus, Incineroar, Urshifu, and Archaludon. Of course, the idea is that Tornadus can Rain Dance for Archaludon. I've also seen Power or Meteor Beam Archaludon pop up recently, which I think is really cool because a lot of players will normally use Assault Vest on Archaludon, and it's an amazing item, but the problem with that is that you can just get doubled up into very consistently. With the Power Herb set, you're able to still get a special attack boost and deal massive amounts of damage, but of course the main nice thing is that you are able to protect as well. They have a Sinistcha on their team, so I'm inclined to think it's more likely the Assault Vest set, but I guess we'll have to see. So, I mean, I'd like to set up Trick Room in this one for sure. I definitely want to lead Regieleki here. And the question is who I want to support it with. Because it could just be something like Flutter Mane plus Regieleki. It also could be the Farigiraf plus Regieleki. Of course, the main advantage of Flutter Mane is that I could just explode next to it. Pelipper is interesting because it would boost Archaludon. I think I definitely want Urshifu. I'm going to go Golden Go here. So Archaludon, I think, is pretty scary, but our best ways of dealing with it are utilizing our super slow Golden Go and Urshifu under Trick Room. So Regieleki's not going to be able to do too much to it, but if we force a Terra out from Archaludon, then we might be able to put on a little bit more pressure. But I think Archaludon's actually pretty scary for this team to go up against because it resists a lot of our key attacks. But it's going to be a Torn Urshifu here. Okay. So this is interesting, right? Because you can Rain Dance Surging Strikes. But Regieleki should be applying a lot of pressure here. Ugh, I would love to just Explosion and Trick Room here. I could switch out. I'm hoping they don't really expect Trick Room here, so they just Tailwind and then Surging Strikes Regieleki. I'm down to just launch Wild Charge into Urshifu here and Trick Room. I think basically my opponent's in a weird spot here where you can Tailwind Surging Strikes. If you don't Tailwind, I guess the other question is whether or not they're Choice Scarfed on the Urshifu, right? But Urshifu is definitely pressured right now. So they're going to go for Terra. I expect this to be Water Terra Urshifu, and then maybe you just Tailwind Strikes, ideally into Regieleki. I get Trick Room up, and then we get a free switch in. The best case, I guess, is if they don't Tailwind, and we just Wild Charge, get a one-hit knockout onto them. Yep, they Tailwind, okay. So now you either KO Flutter Mane or Regieleki, but I'm either getting Trick Room up, or I'm getting a knockout onto Urshifu. And they're going to target Aleki. Okay, that's fine by me. Now we have the element of surprise with the Trick Room Flutter here. Cool. The Trick Room gets set up. Excellent. I think with this now, we could go into Urshifu or Golden Go. Golden Go is cool because it can Thunderbolt into the Urshifu slot. But Urshifu is nice because it guarantees damage through their Protect. So I think I'm down to bring our super slow Urshifu out right now. Let's see what they have in the back. Sinistra switching in is probably the main thing I'm worried about. Obviously, this can Bleak Wind Storm us right now as well, so I could Water Terra to get around that being super effective. Which I don't think is a terrible idea. So I'm gonna Water Terra, close combat here. And Moonblast into Urshifu. The main thing I'm worried about here is their Urshifu switching out, but if they don't switch out and we get this knockout, their Tornadus is in kind of an awkward spot. I think bringing out Golden Go is also probably okay because we resist Tornadus, so like the Tornadus slot is rendered kind of useless, but to me, one of the really cool things about this team is normally the way you beat Trick Room is to kind of just stall it out. Urshifu is going to make the pivot here, so let's see what comes out. Okay, great switch by my opponent. They're going to bring out the Sinistra here. So that's nicely done, but I'm okay with this because what I can do now is pivot the Urshifu out into the Golden Go and just start clicking Make It Rain. So nice play by my opponent, but I don't mind forcing that slot out. Would have been a little bit nicer to maybe have clicked Shadow Ball into that slot, but I wanted to guarantee a knockout if Urshifu stayed in there. So far my opponent's played this game very, very nicely, but it's still okay. I don't mind the spot too much. So we get Moonblast, and they're going to Bleak Wind, which is fine. Yep. I guess the decision here is whether or not I even really want to switch into Golden Go. But that is going to activate our Maranga Berry, so now we get that special defense boost. Yep. Cool. I think it's like tempting to attack here, but my fear is the Rocky Helmet on Tornadus, so I think I'm happy to just switch into Golden Go here, and then go for Shadow Ball onto Sinistra. Yeah, I think another approach I could have taken in this game was just brought Golden Gallop out immediately, Steel Terror, and just Make It Rain plus like Moonblast into the Urshifu slot. My only question is whether or not that actually picks up the knockout on Urshifu. Sinistra goes for Rage Powder, no Protect from Tornado, so that works out for us. Nice. Flutter Mane gets the super effective Shadow Ball into the Sinistra slot, and that's a knockout. Perfect. They're probably just going to Bleak Wind again. The main thing here is getting enough mileage out of our Tailwind. Look how little damage Flutter Mane's taking at this point, by the way. That's wild. That's 2 Bleak Wind Storms, but after that special defense boost, we only take 57 damage total between the two. Yeah, if I stayed in with Urshifu there, like, it would have just been Surging Strikes into Sinistra, right? And that might have Rocky Helmet too. It's actually going to be our Chaladon coming out. Okay. Well, we know they committed their Terra already. There's still 2 turns of Trick Room. I don't know the item on Urshifu. I'm thinking it's probably Mystic Water. Flutter Fainting here wouldn't be too bad, because it would give me a free switch into Ursh. So like here I want to just Thunderbolt to knock out Tornadus. And then Moonblast into our Chaladon. The main question here is whether or not they're Focus Sash on Torn. Their best play would be to protect Tornadus and then Heavy Slam into the Flutter Mane slot right now, I think. Yep, there's Protect. Okay. That's okay, though, because I think essentially I'll have a potential double knockout this next turn, which is really key. The main question then is whether or not Tornadus is Focus Sashed. Okay, Stamina Boost. Oh, it's Flash Cannon. I don't know if that KOs us. I'll tell you the answer. It definitely does not KO us. This is interesting. If you're Flash Cannon, I think we can angle to set up a second Trick Room in this game now. Like, they'd have to switch out into Urshifu because, like, this Flutter Mane is just super, super bulky right now, right? Given that they're Flash Cannon instead of Heavy Slam, I think I can actually take advantage of that. So this turn, I'm going to intentionally try to not knock out either Pokemon. I'm going to Shadow Ball the Archaladon here and then Protect with Flutter Mane so that next turn I click Make It Rain and Trick Room. So the only way that my opponent can really stop this is if they switch out into the Urshifu. I guess you could also go Rain Dance and then the Rain Dance plus the Electro Shot into the Golden Go would also be a really solid play here. Let's see. Okay, they opt for Tailwind, which makes sense. They're just trying to make sure they can outpace me in this endgame. But I don't mind that too much. Nice, perfect. I don't really care about these stamina boosts. Like, we're just getting a lot of good special damage off right now. Oh, interesting. They actually go for Electro Shot outside of rain. Okay. Trick Room expires. Now you're locked into Electro Shot, though, so I'm curious if you're targeting Flutter Mane. And if you do, does it even get the knockout? Because now I'm happy to click... I don't know if we need to make it rain here. It might be better to just get a knockout onto one of the slots. Definitely Trick Rooming with Flutter Mane right now. I don't think Make It Rain KOs our Chaladon. So I don't mind going Thunderbolt into Tornadus here and then Trick Rooming. Okay, they Bleak Wind. Yep, 49 HP. We got that special attack drop on our Chaladon earlier from Moonblast, so let's see first of all where Electro Shot's even going. It's into Golden Go, beautiful. So I just get another Trick Room up. Yeah, this Flutter Mane with this amount of special defense it has is absolutely wild. So Tornadus feigns, we get Trick Room up again, and because they set up Tailwind, we are in a fantastic position. So I think that turn, instead of clicking Tailwind, they could have clicked Rain Dance and then just gotten a special attack boost, and then the next turn they could have gone Bleak Wind plus Flash Cannon into Flutter Mane, and maybe then that gets the knockout. But yeah, we're able to get a second Trick Room up now. So I think part about this team is just you catch your opponent off guard because you have a lot of random surprises, right? So they can Aqua Jet now into either slot. I'm happy to just Thunderbolt here and Moonblast. Let's just guarantee a knockout onto one of the two slots, because then it'll be a 2v1 against Urshifu in this endgame. It's been a really interesting game for sure, but yeah, I think Flutter Mane definitely was the most valuable Pokemon for us. One way I could have played this game was turn 1 hard switch the Regieleki out into the Urshifu, because Regieleki is clearly the threat in that spot. Let Urshifu take the Surging Strikes and set up Trick Room. Here's the Aqua Jet. They're actually going to target the Flutter slot, so that's going to get the knockout. That's fine. Now we have Golden Go with this Life Orb Thunderbolt into the Urshifu slot. That's a one-hit knockout. Cool. We faint from Life Orb, but now I just bring out Urshifu and close combat our Chaladon for the win. Beautiful. Pretty intense game here, though. And partially it's because Regieleki essentially was just demolished on turn 1, right? I think our Chaladon's actually a really tough Pokemon for this team to deal with as well. And we don't have that many great answers into our Chaladon, plus, like, Surging Strikes is still just really powerful into this team, right? Urshifu on our side is the one thing that can resist it, but our two Trick Room users don't love going up against Surging Strikes, and so you essentially, like, if you want to trade positively, or at least trade neutrally, like, you have to take a risk, or give up something. But yeah, slow Urshifu comes out here. This is Brave, of course, Speed IB, Zero Speed IB. But I think the key turn in this game was my opponent clicked Tailwind in that end game. And I think it makes sense, right? Because they just wanted to make sure that they would outpace Flutter Mane. But because they didn't target the Flutter Mane slot, I think, yeah, if you go Rain Dance, Electro Shot, then Tailwind, Flash Cannon, things might have been a little bit more effective. We had that special attack drop, so I was thinking maybe Flutter Mane would even survive the Electro Shot. It was just looking so bulky. But yeah, we can actually do that damage calc. Let's pull up the calc. So this is a wild calc. Flutter Mane was at 49 HP, and we had that special attack drop earlier, and so this is even at +1. Even if we did not get that special attack drop, the Electro Shot against Flutter Mane does 37 to 44. So we would have survived a Bleak Wind plus Electro Shot combination, even if we didn't get the Moonblast special attack drop. Now, of course, with the special attack drop, it becomes neutral, and we only take 25 to 30 damage. And so it's a testament to how insane this Flutter Mane is, and it's also one of the reasons why you might want to consider running Heavy Slam on our Chaladon rather than Flash Cannon. I'd actually featured our Chaladon on the channel previously and had a lot of questions about why you would want to run Heavy Slam, and the specific reason is to have a more optimal matchup against Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane is one of the most common Pokemon in the format, so having a way to just effectively get a one-hit knockout onto it is really valuable. Now, normally you wouldn't expect to run into such a crazy Flutter Mane set, but this calc kind of explains everything, right? This is -1, so if you're neutral with Flash Cannon against this Flutter Mane set, right, when you have that special defense boost, you're only doing about a third of Flutter Mane's health. So that game specifically highlighted this really crazy bulky Flutter Mane set with that Maranga berry. Alright, we've got Bronzong here, which I've not seen in a while. Bronzong, Cresselia, Iron Hands, Incineroar, Dragonite, and Blood Moon. So they're also like a Trick Room team here. This is gonna be interesting. Yeah, like, because of the Power Bracer here, we can definitely catch our opponent off guard with Urshifu under Trick Room. Regieleki lead is interesting. Flutter with the Maranga berry here is kind of cool, but it still doesn't really do anything into the Blood Moon. I think we should leverage Urshifu under Trick Room here. Urshifu under Trick Room. If I were my opponent, what would I lead to set up Trick Room? You could go Incin, Cresselia, Incin, Bronzong, hands Cresselia, hands Bronzong. I don't love Regieleki then, if Incineroar is led. Golden Gold Shadow Ball is really strong. I think this is going to be Golden Go, Frigoraph, Urshifu, Pelipper. It's going to be an interesting one, right? Because it's like, my opponent might click Trick Room, but that's not necessarily even bad for me. It's like, who actually ends up setting up Trick Room in this matchup, right? So, we'll find out. But yeah, I think, like, what's interesting here is how the speed interactions are going to end up working out. Because they might be, I mean, they should be min speed on a lot of their Pokemon. Dragonite Crest, okay. I think that's amazing for Golden Go. The key thing to remember here is that you can't Helping Hand your own Golden Go. Which is fine. I wonder if they Helping Hand. What do you lock into if you're my opponent here? Like, it could be AV Dragonite with Stomping Tantrum. You could Helping Hand, Stomping into Golden Go. I don't mind just going for Protect on turn 1 and Dazzling Gleam, quite frankly. I want to bait out a Terra here. Maybe force a switch. I guess from their end, it would be pretty strong if you just hard switch Dragonite out into Blood Moon and Trick Room. But that's incredibly risky, right? Because if you switch it out on a Golden Go attack, that's really spooky. Yep, they just click Earthquake. Okay, that's fine. And if they, like I said, if they end up setting up Trick Room, my Golden Go just gets to take advantage of it, right? They go for Lunar Blessing. Okay, that felt like Assault Vest to me. Or sorry, Choice Band to me. So if you're going to EQ again, I could set up Trick Room now, right? Like Golden Go out into Pelipper here. And Trick Room. This is what I mean. Like, this dynamic is really weird because it's like, who actually wants Trick Room up at any given point during the battle, right? Yep, they just Earthquake again. Given that they went for Lunar Blessing and not Trick Room last turn, I'm thinking they're just going to click it again here. If they had went for Trick Room, my Golden Go would have actually been in a really nice spot. But let's see. Yep, they Lunar Blessing. Okay. So now I have Pelipper out. Choice Specs Pelipper under Trick Room. We also have Wide Guard, right? So it's like if I knock out Dragonite, I can Wide Guard to block Blood Moon's attacks. Specifically Hyper Voice. It's kind of tempting to click Muddy Water here, because I think Dragonite honestly should switch right now. So I'm not opposed to going for Muddy Water here. Like, Helping Hand Muddy Water Specs in Rain? Yeah, they have, like, no Muddy Water answers, really. I'm down for that. Because Banded Dragonite, I just don't think stays in here. The only risk in this, of course, is that I can miss, but I think it's just so powerful. I would expect it to do, like, over 50% to Cresselia. Yep, there's a switch. If they bring out Blood Moon and we just get the knockout like this, it would be beautiful. Hands is fine. Yep. Here's Helping Hand. Muddy Water, double connect, beautiful. Choice Specs in the rain. Oh my goodness! They're not Assault Vest hands, which is why they took that much damage, but that is sick. Oh wow, it's actually Light Screen Cresselia. Okay, not a move you see that frequently, but that is actually pretty helpful for them. So the question now is whether or not I want to switch. I could also Terra here. I think Grass Terra is pretty safe, honestly. Who else would I Terra in this battle? It could be Water Terra Ursh or Steel Terra, but I think Grass Terra to help out against Wild Charge is totally fine. So Grass Terra, Muddy Water, and just Helping Hand again. Because this is still a double knockout even with Light Screen up. Choice Specs Pelipper is not something people generally expect to fight against, but that damage was just insane last turn. Alright, so they're going to go for a Terra. Okay, on the hands, Grass of their own. Yep, that makes sense. That's fine. I think right now this is also kind of a Golden Go waiting room at this point. But I just want to make sure that I survive with Pelipper because, yeah, even though we're min speed, Iron Hands is also a really slow Pokemon and they're likely min speed as well, given that they're outpacing us here under Trick Room. So I'm fine forcing out a Terra at something that's at 25%, right? Because it means you just can't Terra anything else at this point in the battle. The scary thing, once again, is that Muddy Water can miss right now. So if we miss Cresselia, that can get a little spooky. I end up just clicking Drain Punch onto Frigg, which is fine. Nice play, though. Allows them to heal back. Okay, Pelipper's Muddy Water does not miss. That's a knockout on a Cresselia. Beautiful. And an accuracy drop on a hand. So this Pelipper's been super clutch right now. It's hidden every Muddy Water. I mean, the accuracy drop on Cresselia ends up not being relevant, but still nice. Let's see what they bring out as their last one. I think one of the things to think about is it would be great to actually get Urshifu out while Trick Room is still up. Conserving Frigrev also could be valuable just to help out against extreme speed, but it's just going to be Dragonite, which is fine. Yep. Probably worth considering switching this out at this point. I mean, there's still 2 turns of Trick Room. Might Drain Punch or Wild Charge this slot. I could also see them Drain Punching Peli here. Honestly, might just go Helping Hand Muddy Water again, because I want the free switch-ins to what I have in the back. I do think switching Golden Go here in one of the slots is probably pretty safe, though. Alright, I'll switch Pelipper out into Golden Go. I think that's fine. And Psychic into hands. What I love about this team is that, like, every single Pokemon can carry you through a battle. Each set is just so unique. Beautiful. They Drain Punch into the Peli slot. Perfect. I think the one spooky thing here, I guess, is if they just end up clicking Earthquake here. Let's see. Yep. So, hands to survive. Oh, they are going to click Earthquake. Okay. The interesting thing about that, though, is now I can theoretically just Wide Guard you infinitely. I'm happy to just bring out the Urshifu right now, right? Like I said, I wanted to get Urshifu in rain under Trick Room. Nice Earthquake play by them, though. That was great. But yeah, now I get Min Speed Urshifu out under Trick Room. So let's see what their last one is. It's Bronzong. That makes a lot of sense as to how they played this. Okay. Because you have Levitate with that, obviously. But Earthquake's going to be super weak into Pelipper, and also I have Wide Guard, right? So we actually have like a definitive win con against them. Here I'm happy to just go Shadow Ball into Bronzong and Surging Strikes. I don't know if Bronzong even has a way to hit the Golden Go here. If you're like the Iron Defense Body Press Trick Room stuff, then if your only attacking move is Body Press, you just don't have a way to hit Golden Go. Okay, they go for Helping Hand. That's fine. The game is actually over from this point on because Earthquake, I don't think... Oh, unless they're Rocky Helmet Bronzong here. Okay, that could have been a little bit scary. But essentially now we just have infinite Wide Guard with Pelipper. So it seems weird to have Wide Guard on a set like this Pelipper, but it's really useful given the amount of spread moves in this format. Great decision by my opponent to just lock into Earthquake here in this endgame, though. I thought that was really smart. I also could have probably just clicked Make It Rain there. Just wanted to guarantee the knockout onto the Zong. Yeah, look how bulky this Urshifu is, right? Perfect. And we've timed this fantastically. So Rain stops. Trick Room ends. But now I just bring Pelipper back out. And I know you're locked into Earthquake. We don't even really need to click Wide Guard here, but I think it's kind of a cool way to end up winning this one. Just Wide Guard strikes. Because we know it's Choice Band Dragonite. But that was like a choice band. Helping Hand boosted Earthquake, and it only did just over 50% to Urshifu, which is awesome. And so sometimes you can create win cons like this, right? As soon as I saw my opponent locked in Earthquake, I was like, okay, well, if we get to a scenario where I have Peli in this late game, it's actually fine to lock into a wide guard in the end game. I think it's also probably fine to just click, like, Hurricane in this spot, since, like, we're grass typing, we resist it, but I just wanted to show off wide guard. I think either way is fine to win this end game. Light screen wears off. Yep. Wide guard again. Sorry, strikes again. And they're just locked. So, yep. So, showed off a lot of cool tricks on this team. The Blood Moon did not come out. I thought that was actually the Pokemon I was most worried about, just because its offensive pressure is really ridiculous into this matchup. So, that not coming out made things easier. I really liked how my opponent prioritized Dragonite, honestly. But yeah, finding out that its choice band early meant that I could take advantage of it, and that ended up working out pretty well for us. And I think this game showed off a lot of the cool tricks, namely the really bulky Urshifu, for example. Choice Specs Pelipper in rain, it's really no joke, right? Like, Muddy Water did so much damage into Cresselia and Iron Hands, forced a tear out of Iron Hands early on just to allow them to survive. And then Urshifu, you know, in this end game, as well as wide guard pressure from Pelipper was awesome. So this team has so many tricks. Like, I just love being able to showcase all the different cool components, and I think we were able to get a lot of value out of Pelipper in particular in this game. So this was for Pelipper. Of course, one of the key things about this Urshifu is that under Trick Room, because we're min speed with our item, we actually do outspeed min speed Ursaluna. So that was kind of the idea behind bringing it, right? Where it's like maybe we bait them to set up Trick Room and then we just catch them off guard and then just destroy the Ursaluna. But you can see my opponent did a good job of not setting up Trick Room in the early game. So I was mainly worried about like interacting against Blood Moon where Trick Room isn't set up. And then Blood Moon is able to put on a lot of offensive pressure. So it didn't even end up coming out. So the game ended up being easier. But yeah, part of the idea of bringing Urshifu was to threaten Blood Moon under Trick Room if they were to set it up. All right, we have the 6-let Alex Underhill won Portland Regionals with, which is funny because he actually was one of the people that piloted this team in the Global Challenge, the team that we're using. So, what do I like here? Ogre Pond's a little spooky. Explosion can get really funky, which is fun. But if I want to explode, it should be Regieleki, Golden Go Regieleki, Flutter main lead. I'm not sure I love Flutter main into such a physical team. And I don't think we get that much value out of Maranga Berry either. So I think it's going to be Regieleki, Frigoraph. Peli is nice. One of the things to think about is how we play against Raging Bolt. I think Raging Bolt's actually a little scary for this team. Like, Thunderclap pressure is just really tough. I think I want Urshifu under Trick Room. This is pretty Raging Bolt weak, though, now that I look at it. Especially because that Raging Bolt actually does have Thunderbolt. So maybe I need Flutter main, actually. I think I do. So I think I actually drop Alecki. I'm going to go Flutter Frigoraph. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go Frigoraph Urshifu. Flutter Peli. So the logic behind this is I think I can just protect Trick Room turn 1, and I want to conserve Flutter main for a late game matchup into Raging Bolt, because I think otherwise I'm actually too weak to Bolt. And actually when I was practicing with this team, I had a game where I just got wrecked by Raging Bolt. Like, it Calm Minded a bunch. Now, against the Calm Mindset, if they're Thunderclap instead of Thunderbolt, one interesting thing you can do is Fairy Terra Frigoraph, and then suddenly you completely wall them, but obviously if whatever is next to the Bolt knocks out Frigoraph, you're in a lot of trouble. It's going to be Chien-Pao Entei. Okay. I don't even need to protect Urshifu here. Unless they have specifically Crunch on Chien-Pao. I think switching in Pelipper and Trick Rooming is really safe on turn 1. I also could just attack here, but the reason I don't want to just attack immediately is because they could just Sacred Fire into the Urshifu slot. And I'm going for this because I want to survive Ice Spin or Sacred Fire onto Frigoraph. Yeah, okay, they just Sacred Sword, that's fine. Yep, and Sacred Fire, we survived that, perfect. I don't actually think we needed to even switch in there, but I just wanted to make sure, and it helps against critical hits as well. Great. And now critically, Trick Room is set up. I block all priority. think it's a... Well, I was going to say I want to just click Muddy Water here, but I think Ogre Pawn could definitely be a switch-in for my opponent, so I want to respect that. If I were my opponent, I'd probably protect Chien-Pao right now, though, and just Snarl. This is actually a big turn. Do we think Ogre comes out? I also think if I were my opponent, like, Chien-Pao is just protecting here. I'm going to read into Protect and Helping Hand and Hurricane here, because I think Chien-Pao not protecting would be shocking to me. They don't switch into Ogre or Terra, though, which is a little... Oh my gosh. If I just went Muddy Water, Dazzling Gleam here, I think the game's just immediately over. That's a really nice play by them to just attack with both and not Terra. I don't regret making that read, but it's... Yeah, it's like a really risky play by my opponent, but it pays off heavily, so props to them. And it's a little bit awkward for me right now, because, like, I'm not getting the free switch-ins that I'm actually expecting here, so... Basically, if I went Muddy Water, then I commit to locking into it, it actually gets kind of ugly for me. I'm going to just Helping Hand Hurricane here again, though, into Entei. Because Entei should be Assault Vested, but, yeah. Like, Muddy Water plus Dazzling Gleam should actually just get the double knockout there, and then my opponent just, like, has too many turns to Trick Room to stall out, but, yeah, they make a really nice bold call there by just not tearing Entei, not switching out into Ogre Pawn, or protecting Chien-Pao. So, it's a great prediction by my opponent. But essentially, the thing I wanted to say is, like, let's say I lock into Muddy Water, Dazzling Gleam, and then you switch into Ogre Pawn. Suddenly, I'm in kind of an awkward spot, right? Because then I just can't hit Ogre Pawn at all. And if I caught Ogre Pawn on the switch in there, it would have been super, super good for us. So, I'll bring out Urshifu now. I actually would be happy seeing Ogre Pawn on their end, because I can just Helping Hand close combat that slot. And there it is, yeah. So, there's the defense drop from Chien-Pao, as well as me having Helping Hand pressure right now. 2 turns of Rain and Trick Room, so I'm just going to send it here. Helping Hand into you, close combat into you. Ideally, we just knock out Ogre Pawn. I guess my fear, though, is that their last one is Raging Bolt, because if it's Raging Bolt, you do just Thunderclap me, right? Man, that was such a nice call by my opponent to just stay in with Entei, not Terra, and not protect with Chien-Pao. That was very well done. Because I think if you make kind of what I would say is the obvious play there... Okay, and Chien-Pao switches, which is also scary here. Yeah, and that is Bolt. This is a huge turn. I think if we knock out Ogre Pawn with this Helping Hand combo, we just win the game. So what we have going for us right now is that we're running this really slow Urshifu, right? And so... Does Helping Hand CC get the KO? Because if not, my opponent wins this game. Let's see. This is pretty darn powerful. And if we get the KO, we just win, because then I just outpace you under Trick Room, and Surging Strikes just knocks out Chien-Pao. Oh, they hang on. And I'm getting Horn Leech, probably. Well played. Well played. I think my opponent... Yeah, like, sometimes you have to take big risks when you're going up against Trick Room teams, and I think my opponent made such a nice call there. But yeah, if we get that KO, I don't know what the damage roll is on Ogre Pawn there. It looked really, really close. We can actually do the calc after this game since Alex's pace is public. But yeah, essentially, if we get that knockout, Chien-Pao comes back out. Frigoraph blocks Thunderclap priority from their end, so then we just guarantee knockout Chien-Pao under Trick Room on the last turn. And then Flutter main should always win 1v1 against this Raging Bull. That's the whole idea why I brought this. But really nicely done by my opponent. Like, I'm really proud of how they played, honestly. Is it still possible to win this? Let me think. I think it's potentially doable. Like, Helping Hand... Fairy Terra Moonblast. Onto Ogre. I mean, I think it's over because Chien-Pao now just beats me, but yeah. Oh, that was so close. But it all kind of stemmed from that one turn where they just didn't protect Chien-Pao, stayed in with Entei. I think a lot of players in that scenario, myself included, would just go for Protect and switch Entei out, right? So in my head, I was like, okay, if we nail Ogre Pawn as it switches in, then we just win the game off that turn alone, right? Because then I just apply so much offensive pressure. They T-Bolt into Frigoraph, yep. And Ogerpon's actually still faster than us here, so they're just going to get the knockout. But I don't think I was winning this game either way, to be honest, once Ogerpon survived with a sliver of HP there. I could have gone Psychic Protect. The other thing was, yeah, if you stay in with Chien-Pao there, for example, then we get the KO, but it's very smart to switch out to Chien-Pao because Surging Strikes onto that slot is kind of the obvious play. So Ogerpon's actually kind of the most important Pokemon in this matchup, and the way my opponent did a really good job of like not switching Entei out specifically that turn was really, really well done. So if I had just gone Muddy Water, Dazzling Gleam, we would just pick up a double knockout and take no damage, and the end game would have been them having Water, Ogerpon, and Raging Bolt. I guess from that spot, like, the game still isn't one for me, right? Because, like, the rain is set up, Pelipper's in a weird spot, and I would probably want to switch it out, but it doesn't actually feel great to switch. Like, the combo of back Water, Ogerpon, and Raging Bolt is actually really scary to deal with because you have Follow Me pressure with Ogre, right? Golden Go, not good into either of those. Pally is okay, but, like, I'm pressured by Thunderclap, and it's like, as soon as Farigiraf goes down, Thunderclap puts in so much work against this team. Oh, and you know, this Urshifu does not have max attacks. If we had just a little bit more attack investment, we would have gotten that knockout. But yeah, I'm going to do the damage calc and pull up Alex's spread real quick. So yeah, our odds there were okay. It was a coin flip that was slightly more in my opponent's favor. So we have a 43.8% chance to get that knockout. And if we get that knockout, I do think we just win the game because, like I said, one more turn of Trick Room to work with. Urshifu underspeeds both of my opponent's Pokemon. And we just Surging Strike safely into the Chien-Pao slot. And then Flutter Mane wins against Raging Bolt in the end game. So this was really, really close. Now you can see if we were max attack instead, for example, then the close combat is a slightly higher damage roll. But yeah, at the end of the day, we did have a chance to knock out. This Ogerpon's also really bulky, right? Like 244 HP, 92 defense EVs, but yeah, kudos to my opponent. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, even if I went Dazzling plus Muddy Water, it would not have been a guaranteed win from that spot. I would have been up 4-2, but I think the combo of Ogerpon plus Raging Bolt's actually really terrifying, especially because Ogerpon with that Terra, like Ivy Cudgel does so much damage across the board, and once you clear Farigiraf, Thunderclap from the bolts just becomes such a huge issue, especially for the Urshifu in particular, right? But I don't know, I actually think it's kind of a tricky matchup because I don't think Golden Go does anything for us there, so I don't want to bring that out, and I think Aleki is interesting, but you have to play with it in such a particular way where you have to stall out Trick Room, right? Because like Bolt and Ogerpon came out in the end game, and then I'd have to be able to just wild charge one shot the Ogerpon. But I think that's worth considering, right? Where you force them to Terra with Ogerpon and then use Aleki as soon as Trick Room expires to just wild charge and KO them. So yeah, but really well done by my opponent. I thought they played that game really nicely and conserved the right tools in order to deal with this end game. But yeah, Pokemon can be really, really close, and this is why EVs really make a big difference, right? So by having 196 here, we had a decent chance to get that one-hit knockout, but it's more in my opponent's favor. So yeah. Alright, we've got a very fast-paced team here. Torn, Chien-Pao, Urshifu, Rilla, Flutter, and Landorus. So, this to me feels like it should be a Trick Room game. They have more physical damage than special, so I think I want to go Regieleki, Chien-Pao, or sorry, Farigiraf lead. Pelipper low-key is a monster here under Trick Room. Urshifu's interesting. I think it's like really, really strong under Trick Room, and it also gives me a switch in if they go like Tornursh. Yeah, I'm definitely not bringing Flutter in this one, so it's two of these three. I guess I could drop Regieleki as well. But I actually like Aleki a lot here because I think it forces a lot of pressure onto it. It's kind of like a pseudo redirection user in many ways. Everything's really good here. I mean, Golden Go Make Your Rain just looks so powerful here. I think we have to bring it. I think you make a really good argument for Pelipper, but I'm actually going to bring Urshifu here instead. And the main reason for that, I think, is being able to attack under Trick Room through Protect is just broken. The problem with Pelipper is I'm probably going to want to lock into Muddy Water. Hurricane's not bad either, but essentially it's harder to, like, they can just protect around that, right? And stall out Trick Room with it. So, let's see. It would be awesome to just go for explosion stuff early on. Although I won't be able to do that very reliably, I guess. I'd have to switch into Golden Go. Oh, it's Torn and Dark Urshifu. Okay, that's cool. That is very cool. Yeah, we just Fairy Terra this, then in Guaranteed Trick Room. What they should do is just Tailwind plus Wicked Blow, I think. Or Close Combat. Or sorry, not Tailwind. You probably want to just... No, actually you should Tailwind, otherwise I just damage you. I am happy to just Wild Charge, Tornadus, Terra, Trick Room. Do I need to target Torn? I could see it switching out, honestly. I don't hate going for Wild Charge onto Urshifu, actually. Terra, Trick Room. Yeah. I think they probably end up just targeting Regieleki anyway, but if they go, like, Dark Terra and just Wicked Blow onto Friggraph, that's awesome. Could be Poison Terra, too. They should start, yeah. Like, if Trick Room goes up against my opponent's team, I think they're just in a really difficult position already. I thought about clicking Extreme Speed here onto Urshifu just to break a potential Focus Sash. But I didn't think it was necessary. But yeah, I think, like, Friggraph into this with Fairy Terra, it's just super, super safe to Terra here. Like, because Tornadus doesn't have that much offensive pressure. Beautiful. We bait them to Tailwind, right? So that's one of the nice things about this team is against Regieleki, people feel forced to Tailwind. Oh, and they Wicked Blow into us. That is the best possible outcome because it means now we outpace them with Regieleki under Tailwind, which is pretty darn sick. So we get Wild Charge off into the Urshifu. And the reason, by the way, that I didn't target Tornadus there is because Tornadus isn't really that scary, right? I can Bleak Wind Storm, but that's basically it. So if you're my opponent right now, you're looking to stall out Trick Room. Terra's already been committed. I'm honestly happy to just bring our slow Urshifu out and Dazzling Gleam. Now, I could just stay in with Regieleki as well and just Wild Charge. Most Tornaduses are carrying Protect these days. So, the hope here is to bait them into double protecting. Actually, I think Golden Go's a better switch in just because Make It Rain is just so strong at this point. And it resists Bleak Wind. It'd be cool to bring out the Urshifu because it's slow, but I don't want to just hit a Bleak Wind Storm or get hit by a Bleak Wind Storm. And if they have Rocky Helmet, that's also really bad for me. Oh, that's cute. Okay. Side Scary Face. That's cool. But because you set up Tailwind, this doesn't work. Friggraph is still just faster than you. That's what I love about this team, though. But I think if you're going to Tailwind there, you should be targeting Regieleki every time, essentially. Now, if they had targeted Regieleki, I just get a free switch in into Golden Go and Make It Rain plus... Or Urshifu, and I can just, like, Close Combat, Surging Strikes, or bring out Golden Go, Make It Rain, Dazzling Gleam, for example. But yeah, I think, once again, if you look at this team, it doesn't really look like a Trick Room team, right? When you have Urshifu, Golden Go, Regieleki, like, Regieleki is just so fast, and so people often feel forced to Tailwind in front of it. We got even more mileage than I expected it to in this game, and it also means that we can use that as an effective late-game closer, which is awesome. So we should be incredibly well-positioned right now, because you can't even really go for Fake Out, you know, and they bring out Flutter, which is perfectly fine. It's just the Fairy Terra here on Friggraph. That's huge, right? One thing to remember with the Golden Go out in this position is that we can't go for Helping Hand onto it, but that's fine. I'm just going to click Make It Rain here. Pretty sure Make It Rain should just get the double knockout in this spot. So I don't mind clicking Make It Rain and actually switching Friggraph out into Urshifu. Part of the idea of this Urshifu is that under Trick Room, it's just broken, right? Because you outpace things that your opponents would never expect you to outpace. Now, in this case, we're up against a really fast team anyway, so it's not as relevant. But the idea here is, okay, if you double protect, well, then I just kind of crush you, right? But they're going to Side Scary Face. Once again, it's a cool tech, but we are min speed here on Golden Go, and you have Tailwind up, so it does not work. My opponent would be better off just by clicking Protect on their Pokemon. So, yeah. So what happened in this game, right? Regieleki baited my opponent to set up Tailwind, and then after Tailwind was set up, Trick Room just kind of completely crushed them. Their team is already pretty fast-paced. Side Scary Face is cool. I can see that as a normal answer against Trick Room teams, but we were so slow on this team with so many things that, yeah, I think, like, even if they didn't set up Tailwind, you Side Scary Face, like, we're min-speed Golden Go, min-speed Urshifu, it wouldn't actually work anyway, right? But the key thing is that turn 1 just worked out so well for us. But I felt really safe once the leads came out. Like, I think our lead was just really strong here. If you knock out Regieleki, like I said, I just get a free switch in immediately into Urshifu or Golden Go, and I have 4 turns of Trick Room to work with, which is just, like, the ideal scenario, right? I think the main way my opponent could have won this is you get that knockout onto Regieleki, and then you make me play the guessing game, right? I would probably bring out Golden Go and just go make it rain Dazzling Gleam because it's just so strong. There's nothing on their team that can really resist it. But if you have Protect on Tornadus, for example, you can double protect on turn 1, and then maybe make a switch, lose both Pokemon, or like give up Tornadus, switch Urshifu out, give up something else, bring out both, double protect again. But yeah, I think under Trick Room we just had so much offense here, and they had very little to stop it. If you brought Shampoo with Focus Sash, that could be a little bit scarier, but we have so much spread damage, and them committing to Dark Terra means that there's just really nothing that can reliably resist any of our attacks here. So yeah, this team is just an absolute monster, and it makes really tough decisions on turn 1 in particular, because you don't expect like Trick Room to go up often when Regieleki is out on the field. This is a really interesting team. That's a Rhyperior. Okay. NDD, Crown, Torkoal, Amoonguss, Urshifu, Rhyperior. Torkoal is obviously really scary to fight against, but Pelipper is going to be very essential here. We have no terrain control, which is a little bit spooky. Oh, man, I kind of want to go with like Eleki plus Flutter here. Oh, man, all of our Pokemon are, like, decent. Should I actually go with Flutter? It's, like, tempting because of the Maranga Berry being able to soak up hits. I feel like Golden goes really strong here, but I don't know if it's Dark Urshifu. Alright, I'm down for Eleki, Flutter. I think I need to bring Pelipper given Torkoal. Urshifu is actually really tempting here. Because we can catch them off guard with Power Bracer. But I'm worried about Amoonguss. You have Grass Terra on this, I suppose. I'm going to bring Urshifu out here. This is a weird one, because like they have a Trick Room mode, right? Where you just set up Trick Room with NDD and you use Amoonguss and Torkoal under Trick Room. If they lead NDD and their Psychic Seed, I honestly might just want to go like Explosion turn 1. Like, let's say they go NDD Crown, I could just go normal Terra Explosion, Shadow Ball turn 1. And if we pick up a double knockout from that, that's pretty sweet. Let's see what they lead with. It's Urshifu and Crown. Okay, Booster Energy. Speed. Speed. I think... this is a tricky spot to be in. I don't like this for me, yeah. You could, like, Wicked Blow, Flutter, and Tacky and Cutter it, which is my main concern right now. I guess the question is, do they actually ignore Regieleki, though? This is risky. But I'm going for a Wild Charge. Okay, Urshifu switches. Oh, probably into NDD then, right? That's actually not too bad then, I guess. But, yeah, the Explosion Shadow Ball play would have been cool. I went for Fairy Terror here to survive a potential Wicked Blow, by the way. But my opponent's clearly committed to a faster mode, so at least that's good to know. But this Terror was just a complete waste. I just thought they might want to consider like Wicked Blow onto Flutter Mane immediately. But I guess the main thing here is like they should expect Flutter Mane to be fast, right? But I was worried about Focus Sash Ursh. So with the speed booster, you get Expanding Force off. But we survive with both, which is nice. And now Maranga Berry is consumed. I hope Eleki actually feigns from Wild Charge Recoil here. That would be great. It's a ton of damage. Ugh, we survive. It's a little awkward. Trick Room setup. Volt Switch would have been a little bit better for us there, for sure. What do I think their last one is if they're going with these three? Torkoal, probably? Pelipper Muddy Water looks insane right now. They could go Helping Hand. I'm think I should probably switch Eleki out, but I don't want any of this to take an Expanding Force. I actually think I just Wild Charge here and sacrifice Eleki and protect. Yeah. Turn 1 definitely could have played out better. Alright, they just Dazzling Gleam. That's fine. I get a free switch into Ursh now. They haven't Terra'd. A lot of people use Water Terra on Crown. It's Tacky and Cutter, yeah. Okay, I think I prefer just bringing Peli out here then. The problem here is a potential Torkoal switch in, right? But I don't mind clicking Muddy Water. I think Muddy Water Moonblast here. Because I could see this going for a Water Terra. My dream would be let Rhyperior as their last one, but I think you probably bring Torkoal into this matchup just because I have Rain. Ideal output would be Crown switching into Torkoal and Muddy Water and Moonblast just KO it, but I don't think it would. That being said, if we get a lot of damage on a Torkoal, like, Pelipper is actually really, really good into it. And I can switch into Urshifu as well, right? It's just this turn 1 Terra on my end was not very good. The Infinity just goes for Follow Me, okay. So I could have gone Shadow Ball there, but it's fine. And we're going to miss Muddy Water onto Infinity. Okay, it's a little unfortunate. Specs Muddy Water does a ton there, though. And actually, if I'd clicked Shadow Ball, I guess Infinity would have survived the turn. So we at least guaranteed the knockout onto this, which is nice. And to be honest, Flutter fainting here wouldn't even be bad because it would give me a free switch in. But we are so bulky. Okay, I end up surviving Bolt, yep. I'm curious. I mean, you could just bring out Torkoal now if you have it. It's Rhyperior. Okay. That is very good news for us, I think. 2 turns of Trick Room left. So Muddy Water here is pretty darn strong, right? Rhyperior should Terra here, in my opinion. I'm going to Muddy Water here and then protect with Flutter Mane. So I would expect Grass or Water Terra Rhyperior right now. Oh, it's Fairy. Okay. So the game plan after this turn is you should protect, I think, on the Crown. But let's see. Oh, they didn't protect. I don't know if that's necessarily good for me. Never mind, that did so much damage. Jeez. The problem, though, is they can just Rock Slide right now, right? Like, I assume you have Rock Slide? But I guess I'd actually expect to survive Rock Slide here since we're bulky Pelipper. So I don't mind clicking Muddy Water here. I could switch Flutter out right now into Ursh. Yeah, actually, I think that's a decent play. Because then I get a guarantee a KO onto Rhyperior with Aqua Jet. So we pivot out. Yep, they go for Rock Slide now. Pally survives with 3. Do we flinch? Oh, and they're Life Orb, so Rhyperior just faints. Okay. So if we don't flinch here, I think we just win the game. Even if we flinch, I think it's actually still doable in a 3v1 spot. But clutch bulk on the Pelipper. We do end up flinching, yeah. They Wicked Blow into Pelipper, okay. I think I'm still okay in this spot, though, since our Urshifu is so bulky, right? So Trick Room expires, but I think Close Combat into Aqua Jet should just knock them out. Okay, so we come out. 2 turns of Rain left, which is perfect. Yeah, I'm happy to just Moonblast here. In Close Combat. I guess you could win off Close Combat crit onto Urshifu here. But yep, they just Wicked Blow into us. Perfect. Now close combat should bring you down to 1 HP or around there if you're sashed. 1 HP if you're sashed, or around there if you're not sashed, actually, is what I meant to say. Okay. Cool, and they're not sashed, so close combat just KOs. Nice. So we were in a spot where essentially we had 2 Pokemon that could get a 1-hit knockout onto the Urshifu. I was surprisingly committed to high horsepower onto Flutter Mane rather than Rock Slide. I think if they had clicked Rock Slide, it would have been awkward because they actually would have gotten the KO on... Sorry, they would have failed to get the KO onto me. Oh, but you know what? What would have worked out is because Muddy Water plus Life Orb was actually enough to just knock out Rhyperior in the end, right? So, let's say Rock Slide connects there. Well, then the Muddy Water just knocks out both Rhyperior. Or sorry, Muddy Water brings you low. If you Rock Slide there, you faint from Life Orb afterwards. But what ends up mattering is if you click Rock Slide and I flinch, right? Because I did end up flinching there against the Urshifu when I was trying to attack. And so they had just clicked Rock Slide initially and gotten the flinch. That would have been really bad. I guess my opponent was maybe a little bit scared about... like potential wide guard, even though I'm choice specs. And we actually do have wide guard, right? But I had already committed to clicking Muddy Water earlier, and maybe they weren't sure that I was choice specs because Specs Pelipper is not something you generally run into. But yeah, I think ultimately in that game, what also helped is they didn't bring Torkoal or Amoonguss, so they kind of committed to this faster mode. So my Terra on Flutter on turn 1 I think was a little bit questionable. I was mainly hoping I was thinking they might just try to go Wicked Blow plus Tacky and Cutter into the Flutter slot. If I had to guess, they were Choice Band Urshifu there because they weren't Focus Sash in the end. And so, yeah, I don't know if that Terra was really ideal, but we didn't really need our Terra for anything else. I think like Terra Water Urshifu under Trick Room would have been good here as well, but yeah. All right, we have Ting-Lu stuff here. Porygon 2, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Ting-Lu, Golden Go, Urshifu. So, against this, what do I want to bring? This is probably an Urshifu game. Urshifu plus Golden Go. Pally is good as well. The main awkward thing is kind of the speed dynamic here. What do I think my opponent would lead here? Incineroar, Porygon, maybe? They don't have weather control, so low-key, I think we could actually just go with Pelipper plus Urshifu immediately. You know what's really cool about this? I can bait my opponent into maybe setting up Trick Room with Porygon 2, which would be really sweet. I think we want Golden Go here, because otherwise Amoonguss is a really big problem. A little bit worried about Ting-Lu. Yeah, I think Ting-Lu's a pretty big concern. I could go for a late-game Explosion endgame with Regieleki. Flutter with Maranga Berry. Just doesn't do enough damage, I think. But I don't know if... I mean, Ferrograph... One of the reasons why people are using Ting-Lu is specifically to counter Ferrograph plus Blood Moon. Alright, I think I'll still go with Flutter here. At least, like, with Flutter, I can force a Terra out of Ting-Lu. But basically, with Pelipper plus Urshifu here, I'm hoping my opponent's like, okay, well, you're fast. I'm going to set up Trick Room. And if they set up Trick Room, I get Surging Strikes in rain while they're setting up Trick Room, and then I just outpace them and KO them under Trick Room. So I think Urshifu is going to be very important here. But I'm worried about Rocky Helmet Amoonguss as well. It's one other thing to think about. Okay, it's actually Amoonguss coming out immediately. That works. Download for a special attack boost. The other question now is whether or not they have Thunderbolt on Porygon. We have a bunch of options here. I want to knock out Amoonguss, but Amoonguss could just protect as Porygon Trick Rooms. I don't hate Hurricane and Surging Strikes here on a Porygon, I think. If Amoonguss Rage Powders, we just get the knockout onto it. Actually, clearing Amoonguss would be amazing here. You could Terra Amoonguss and Rage Powder as well, but that would be kind of bold. Curious if it's Rocky Helmet on that as well. Alright, they just go for regular Rage Powder. That's fine. Clearing Amoonguss early on, I think, is huge for us in this game. Also, does this just KO because we're Specs? And this is what, like, running slow Urshifu here is what's really surprising, right? And they're going to Trick Room for us, so I get to utilize Urshifu under Trick Room. That's exactly the game plan here. Now, that play by my opponent is really safe most of the time, right? Because you would never expect Urshifu to be slower than Pelipper, and you wouldn't expect Choice Specs on Pelipper. So, if this were just what the standard sets are, you would expect Amoonguss to survive, and you would expect Surging Strikes to go into Amoonguss. Instead, my opponent ends up setting up Trick Room for me, and I deal like 60% plus to Porygon immediately. And Ting Lu just comes out. That's totally fine with me. So that was essentially the dream turn 1 for me, in my opinion. So there's Vessel of Ruin. That's fine. We've got Flutter and Golden go out. I think here Ting Lu's probably forced to Terra immediately. And since we're this really wacky Urshifu slet that's so slow, I think we can just go on the offense. I'd rather just knock out Porygon 2 here immediately, because Ting Lu should not put on that much pressure into Urshifu. A lot of these Ting Lus are Assault Vested as well, so I don't mind just going for Hurricane here, because we have a chance of Confusion. It still does decent damage. Terra, and I just want to knock out Porygon now. This is kind of the dream scenario, right? My opponent set up Trick Room for me, and I got rid of the one thing that I was really worried about fighting against under Trick Room, which was Amoonguss. So that's why I went for the Hurricane Surging Strikes play on a Porygon. I figured there was not very much my opponent could do to get around that, right? The best play would have been maybe to switch Porygon and sacrifice, or like sacrifice something else in the back. But yeah, now I get to utilize really slow Urshifu under Trick Room, which is just the dream for us right now. So here's Terra on Ting Lu, and it's going to be Poison Terra, which is the standard. But as you see here, we're just so slow with Urshifu, right? So now I think Urshifu just crushes my opponent under Trick Room. Yep, so once again, this was exactly the game plan though, right? By leading this, you would never expect it to be slow. And this is one of the reasons why this team is such a great pick in best of 1 closed team sheet. The element of surprise can be a really big factor, and yeah, it's just huge for us here. So we get a knockout onto that. As you can see here, my opponent's Trick Room is just completely working against them right now. And Hurricane does really nice damage on a Ting Lu. It's just going to be Runation here onto the Urshifu slot, but that's fine. I can just Surging Strikes the Ting Lu now. I think that's a Sylveus. I actually couldn't really tell. But they just bring their own Urshifu out. Yep. It's their own Water Urshifu. 3 turns of Rain and Trick Room. I've got Flutter and Golden Go in the back. We have a guaranteed knockout on a Ting Lu here, so I'm happy to just take it. Hurricane onto it, Surging Strikes onto it. An Urshifu on their side is not going to win a 3v1, especially against Pelipper. One of the best things about Pelipper is resisting both Surging Strikes and close combat. So they smartly don't detect with Urshifu, but now I get Surging Strikes in rain against this Ting Lu. Look how much damage that does with Water Terra. This is just nuts. That's actually just a knockout. Yeah. This was like the absolute dream game for this team combo. And I'm really happy to showcase why slow Urshifu with this item is just so incredible, right? Because, yeah, once again, you would assume us to just be super fast. Let's see if they're Focus Sash on Urshifu. Nope, they're not. So Specs Pelipper was also just incredible for us in this game, right? Like, this duo just was able to completely catch my opponent off guard. And, you know, if Amoonguss ends up... Like, if you set up Trick Room, for example... If Amoonguss is in the back, and then you get Trick Room up, then Amoonguss becomes a problem, right? Because if you're min-speed Amoonguss, you can just Spore into the Urshifu slot. You can go for Redirection. You can Spore into Pelipper as well. But, yeah, I think with turn 1, I just felt like I can take advantage of the fact that very few Porygons have Protect. And, you know, if like, the one play I was trying to cover for was, like, Amoonguss protecting and then Porygon just trying to set up Trick Room. Because, like, even though we want Trick Room to be set up, it's a little bit awkward if Amoonguss actually goes for that Trick Room. If Porygon goes for that Trick Room, because then Amoonguss can start sporing me. So I was basically covering for, hey, if you end up going for a Protect and Porygon tries to Trick Room, I can just knock you out. Normally, these Ting Lu teams, right, they kind of want to just, like, stay on the field for forever and just, like, heal back up. But what was huge here was that Urshifu and Pelipper's damage output was just absolutely ridiculous, right? And having this slow Urshifu meant that as soon as Trick Room gets set up, I just outpaced my opponent. So I think the element of surprise is something that can give you a huge advantage in competitive Pokemon, especially in Best of 1, and there's no better game to showcase this Urshifu with the out item and the min speed than this game. So very happy about his performance here. This is a really interesting team. Okay, NDD, Male Sneasler, Tornadus, Urshifu, Flutter, and Gouging Fire. So it's clearly a really fast team, but of course, NDD does have Imprison and Trick Room. So I think here, I want to bait my opponent into thinking I'm going to go fast, because I think if Trick Room gets set up, it should crush them. So for example, I do really love the idea of Regieleki plus Flutter here, because I could pressure with Explosion. And most of the times, if you lead like Tornursh or NDD Sneasler, I think Regieleki is going to be the target. Well, I guess Entity Sneasler, you might just go into Flutter. It could be Frigraph lead instead of Flutter. I think the scary thing with Furgraph, though, is if you see Furgraph with Inity, you're probably going to want to click Imprison, which is my main concern. Urshifu looks like it can crush here. Pelipper enables Urshifu, but I think Golden Go Make It Rain is just so good here. So I'm down to try this out. I would love to get Explosion off. I think that is one of my favorite things about this team, but it's not that easy to actually execute, right? Because, like, let's say they go with Tornursh, like, then that gets a little bit scary immediately. Inity Sneasler is the main lead I'm curious about, because you do have Imprison with the Inity, but I think it's hard to expect Trick Room from Flutter main here. So let's see. I think the team building behind this is just so brilliant for best of 1, though. Okay, Torn Gouging Fire. No booster energy, so if I had to guess, it's Clear Amulet, Gouging Fire. I'm worried about Sunny Day right now, and then just Heat Crash into Flutter main. Oh, I actually really have very little counterplay to that, other than... I think I'm going to go for it. Normal Terra Explosion and Trick Room. So basically, the logic behind this is if you Tailwind, I don't think you... I mean, the Flutter main's actually... I could Explosion Protect as well. Basically, I think just, like, getting Trick Room up is really important in this game. So even if, Regieleki just faints on turn 1, that's actually fine if it means Flutter main survives the turn. I think I'm mainly worried about Tailwind and then them just being, like, max attack and then Heat Crash just one-shots Flutter main. The Flutter main has max HP, but it doesn't have any defense EVs. It's all special defense. Yeah, they Terra into what? Ghost? I mean, that's fine. Ideally, they click Sunny Day here on turn 1, and I just one-shot the Gouging Fire. Alright, it's Tailwind. So where's Gouging Fire targeting now? Oh, we're still faster! Wait, please tell me I actually get the one-hit knockout, though. Because if not, it's doomed. Okay, let's see. Normal Terra, Choice Band. Yes! Oh, that was a crit. Okay, I need to do the damage calc after this one, because I'm not sure. But, I mean, my inclination is, like, if they don't really have that much bulk, then we just get the knockout. But they should have bulk, given, like, you didn't even outspeed Regieleki under Tailwind. So, yeah. I think we got pretty lucky there, and I'm assuming they were probably going to try to Heat Crash me. But, yeah, it's, like, hard to say without knowing exactly what their set is. Now I can just bring out Minspeed Ursh under Trick Room. Good foresight to go with Ghost Terror on the Tornadus there. I wonder if they expected Explosion. I just can't believe they were still slower than Aleki, even with Tailwind up. They bring out Flutter, which is totally fine. Yep. Bring Ursh out. You have no switch into Surging Strikes and Moonblast here. I mean, Surging Strike Shadow Balls... No, I just want to cover for Urshifu coming out. Yeah. All right, let's do that calc. I'm really, really curious. So let's see. Regieleki. I'm guessing it did really matter. I just, like, have no idea what their EV spread is on Gouging Fire. Let's, like, say they're max HP, though. It's Explosion, Normal Terra. Oh, okay, that crit absolutely mattered. If you look at this calc, even without any bulk on Gouging Fire, we only do 81 to 96%. So, yeah. Gouging Fire definitely is surviving that. Now what I want to calc is Gouging Fire into Flutter main. Because if we end up surviving the turn, that's what really matters, right? So we have max HP, but no defense EVs. So if you're max attack, Heat Crash, you just get the one-hit knockout. I'm guessing they were, like, Dragon Dance, Clear Amulet, so... I think we won that game just off being really lucky. Like, I'm happy that we got to show Explosion, but it should not have actually worked out in that scenario. Because Gouging Fire would survive Explosion, and then Gouging Fire presumably is just clicking Heat Crash into Flutter main. Now, for example, if you have, like, a low attack investment, like, let's say 44 attack EVs, then Flutter survives. And so a big question is, what is the Gouging Fire EV spread? My guess is that it's actually ultra bulky, right? Like, our Regieleki was still faster then, and this isn't max speed Eleki either. So I'm guessing Gouging Fire has very little speed investment, probably has Dragon Dance, and then probably has invested super heavily in like HP defense and special defense. So then the question is how much attack investment are you running, right? Like, let's say you're running like 120, for example. Heat Crash can still KO, but it's not guaranteed, right? Like, it's going to be around a 50% chance, right? It's actually, wow, this is a really big jump, 112 to 116 with Heat Crash. But essentially, yeah, like, we're surviving, we have a chance to survive until you get to 220 attack EVs, right? And then it's a guaranteed knockout onto Flutter main. But reality is, yeah, I got super lucky with that turn 1. And I really wish we could have seen what Gouging Fire was going for. I mean, I have to assume it was Heat Crash there. But I don't know, like, let's say they try to like Dragon Dance in front of us and get fancy, then they get ultra punished. Because like Dragon Dance actually feels kind of safe in that position, right? Because you wouldn't expect Trick Room from Flutter main. So yeah, it's a shame we got that. I mean, I'm happy we got the crit to showcase how cool Explosion is, but the fact that they went for Ghost Terror and then that we don't actually get the guaranteed knockout or ever get the knockout there onto Gouging Fire is a little bit spooky. And there's a good chance we actually just lose immediately because Explosion fails to get the knockout, then they just knock us out onto Flutter main with Heat Crash. If Heat Crash gets the KO, we lose, and if it doesn't get the KO and we Trick Room, we win. That's kind of what it boils down to. So yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much, as always, for joining me. I feel like we got to showcase a lot of the cool tricks on this team, right? We had a game where Pelipper was the main carry. We had a game where Urshifu was the main carry. We had a game where Fluttermane was the main carry. We had a game where Regieleki was able to go for Explosion and put in massive amounts of work. And so, yeah, really happy about the team's performance overall. And I think if you're ever thinking about how to build for best of one, like, this is such a beautiful way to do it, where you're using conventional Pokemon. One, you have a lot of surprise EV spreads as well as items and move choices. And 2, you have a Regieleki, which people also just don't have that much experience fighting against. So yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. Thanks to Nash for building the team, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.